Hey guys, thank you for joining us for another exciting episode of YOML. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast. We want to conclude our Shoe Dog episode. This is the second installment, but like the reflection two of Shoe Dog that we started yesterday. And so let's what Chris have in store for us today.
Yeah, we were just talking about this right before this call started. Rough day for me. Just kid. This just I wanted to say this just for the record. Luca's sick. He got me sick. Working all day long, still doing the living for two stuff in the morning, doing the stuff at night. Just wanted to say like even when it's a shitty day, it still is a pretty good day. It still feels like you can accomplish some stuff if you are purpose driven and even when life tries to get you down a little bit. Actually, it's a good segue into this particular reflection about becoming a professor of the jungle. But yeah, I just wanted to say that we do this stuff every night, but I assume if I was just tuning into this thing and following our lives, you'd be like, well, every day must be like easy peasy for these dudes. They do this every night, show up at the same time, have it, get all the stuff done, and then they get out of here, and it's like there's real life happens and struggles happen, right? But we show up because it's important, so that's why we do it. Just a quick recap of Shoe Dog. It's a memoir about Phil Knight's how he started Nike, from Blue Ribbon Shoes is what they originally were called it, to it ultimately became Nike, and just the whole journey of him, selling shoes out of the trunk of his car at track meets to becoming a massive world, powerhouse company. It's such a good memoir, best memoir I've ever read, and highly would recommend it. I would highly recommend it to anybody that wants to check it out. But that said, our first reflection was about
The
nature.
bamboo tree.
The bamboo tree, just nature. And this one is out about becoming a professor of the jungle.
The bamboo jungle, right?
Well, yeah, kind of, yeah. Seriously, I mean, it kind of is. I gotta kind of read this passage. And by the way, I need your help. How do you pronounce this guy? When we get to this name, you pronounce it. So, because I don't know that I can pronounce that well. So this is a passage from Shoe Dog. So the year was 1997, still haunted by the Vietnam War. Knight had vowed that someday Nike would have a factory in or near Saigon. By 1997, he had four. He was in Saigon. The company was to be honored and celebrated by the Vietnamese government as one of the nation's top 5 generators of foreign currency. At one point, his host graciously asked him what they could do for him and how they can make his trip more special and memorable. Phil Knight responded. He said, "I'd like to meet this 86-year-old General."
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, that. The man who single-handedly defeated the Japanese, the French, the Americans, and the Chinese, Knight replied. And General, is it Yap?
Yeah.
Yep. General Yap joined the group the next day and waited for Knight to ask a question. It was simple. Knight asked, "How'd you do it?" The corners of Yap's mouth flickered. A smile, maybe. Knight recalled. Yap thought and said, he said, "a professor of the jungle." And do you know who this is?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'd never heard of this guy before. What do you know about this guy?
He is a general for the North Vietnamese. Okay, he's the one that is responsible for the defeat of the well, not the defeat, but the kind of like the. I mean, without him, North Vietnamese has no chance.
Right.
Okay,
Gotcha.
I mean, in reality, the American, you know, withdraw the troops from Vietnam because of political, kind of like turmoil in America, and Nixon decided to pull the troops, but he was the one, the mastermind of all the different troops in the way they fight guerrilla warfare style, right?
Yep.
And I mean, it's like you're talking about if you're talking about without the U.S. help, without the Russian and Chinese help on either side, and let the Civil War, kind of run on its own, Yap would have won the war, because he's just very strategic and very genius in warfare. He's just that good, right? And so in essence, he is the reason why the Vietnam War lasted that long.
Because he was a professor of the jungle.
Yes, to me, it's like, so the thing is, you have to understand is I'm from the south of me, so he's not the guy I would want to say good things about. But I gotta I gotta give respect where respect is due, right? So he's the reason. So he's really smart, intelligent, and like you said, not only he fights in the Vietnam War, but he also fights in the Japanese and the Chinese and all that before. So he is not a rookie in any sense when he was leading the troops of the North Vietnamese.
Interesting. So obviously you know who this guy is. For me, when I heard that quote, like I don't have a dog in the fight, I guess, in terms of North or South Vietnamese or whatever. I was just there was the book that I was going off of at this point in time. But in my personal opinion, I feel like this is like the essence of what life's about, right? Is becoming a professor of whatever jungle you inhabit, right? You gotta, and if you don't do it, what the hell are you doing? Like you have to. It's so complex. Our life is so complex, and all the stuff around you is so complex. You have to figure out the source code of everything. You have to like really understand, how everything works as best you possibly can, and then understand what's most important to you. I.e. a beaver must dam, and figure out how you can go add value to that jungle. I mean, because like it's like the jungle is a dangerous place if you don't walk in there with a purpose. I mean, it really is. I mean, I didn't grow up in the jungle. You probably have more thoughts about like jungle life than I do, obviously, because I've never grown up in that kind of environment, but I've read many books these days about like, the Amazon or whatever. Like, it's just so infinitely complex, and like everybody has a role to play in these environments, and everybody, if they don't do their thing and they don't do it well, they'll die. And like that's the whole thing, is become a professor of the jungle. And the question then becomes how. So Phil Knight in this book, talked about like, his answers: study and work. So like, it goes back to the biggest bluff, and less certainty, more inquiry. We talked about that on the beginning of this whole journey. Or Charles Darwin, just shut up and listen. With On the Origin of Species, and just observe what's going on around you. Or just study, learn, literally read as many books as you can, and understand what's going on in this world, and understand how our brains work, how we interact with the world, how does fungi work, how do trees work, how do beavers work, whatever you can learn to arm yourself just a little bit more, so you can go and study and become that professor of the jungle, and then go try to apply that out there and figure out like, hey, who am I, and how can I fit into this environment, and how can I add value to everything else out there? So that's the most important part, is understand yourself, obviously, right? And how you enter into that jungle, and how you interact with that jungle. That was it. It's become a professor of the jungle. I thought that was a brilliant line, and something that I found very, very I don't know, there's something poetic about that, I guess, a little bit.
I think it's a good line. I think this line should be added to our library of the concept, saying we say run for train, run down hills. I think this belongs in it. And to me, this has become a professor of jungle. It's not really new in a way, just because you're talking about I mean, he just makes it a little bit more clarified a little bit even further from what Sun Tzu say in The Art of War. So basically, what I say, as a military general or strategist, you have to understand your surrounding. You have to understand your environment. So to plainly put it for us, as far as our perspective in what this line meant, is about us. It's all about alignment. You have to align yourself with the environment, your environment. Like I said, you can't change a lot of things, but one thing we can change is we can change our environment. Because like I say, if you say, I don't like the cold, right? You don't have to sit there and suck it up. You can say, well, I'm going to move south, right? You can change your environment. I mean, in essence, like when I say you can't change your environment, I'm not saying, hey, I'm going to control the weather, but I can move myself to a better place. So in a way, yes, I can change my environment. In a way, I can't change
Oh,
my environment.
you can totally change your environment. Like you can
Exactly.
surround yourself with the people that care about the same stuff that you care about, or you can literally do the exact same job in one company and the exact same job in another company, and the culture and the environment and the people align to your values, and the other ones they don't. Now that's not to say that the company will survive because it's built on false principles anyway, but like, you know, at least for a time being, you can have meaningful work and meaningful relationships, and it's literally you're the same person just transported into a different environment, you know. Anyway,
right, because some environment can be harder for you because you don't have the uh the characteristic that aligns with that environment. You know, whether, for example, like a lot of people, like you're talking about, like the yellow fever or whatever. You know, it's the natives, whatever, was not immune to that. It could not take these kind of bacteria, so they basically die off from this European explorer bringing the new bacteria to their region. So the thing is, it's all about understanding what you can harmonize with in your surrounding. And if you are in a jungle, right, what can you do? How can you change your environment so that that environment becomes an advantage for you versus a hindrance? Because you're talking about somebody who's coming into the jungle who were never in the jungle, right? They cannot stand the humidity. They cannot stand all the different bugs that bite you. They cannot handle and withstand the things that these guys already been conditioned to basically not even like withstand. I mean, to them it doesn't bother them at all, right? A lot of people, they are really bothered by the humidity, but if you're in the jungle all along, right, the jungle is basically your safe haven, right, versus something that's dangerous. Because you think about how the you're talking about, for example, we're talking about somebody, what was it, uh, who went on the Appalachian Mountain Trail, right? You have to have the guide,
Bill
right?
Bryson,
Yeah, Bill Bryson, right? You gotta have the guide, so the guy knows certain thing because they understand. Hey, when this happened, this is more likely possibility is gonna be the next event that gonna come after you see some sign. So there's some of these signs that you see as well. So it's all about being the I guess being in harmony with whatever it is that you want to put yourself in or take yourself out. Because like I said, if you're in a place where that is not what people value, then you gotta take yourself out to a place where people do value you. Because to me, that's the essence of what I see in company. It's like a lot of times you go to a company and you work for them, they don't value the effort you bring, because to them they don't that's not aligning with what they're looking for. So they can say, well, I don't care how smart you are, I don't care how great you are, I
just
only
want a
pay
mercenary.
you I only pay you this much to do that much. But when you bring it into company where we say, well, what's your alignment, what is the thing that you do best? Are you a beaver, right? If you're a beaver, I'm going to put you into a river with cool water, with a lot of trees, with a lot of branches where you can thrive. I'm not going to put you in the tundra, in the snow, in the desert, in the places where it's becoming difficult, the most difficult thing for you to be. So you can't not be something that you don't align with. Meaning, like, for example, first and foremost, it's about whether or not you understand who you are, right? If you say you're a beaver, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's number one. That's the number one thing that we do that's different is we help you to understand. Are you a beaver? Are you
a beaver? Are you a
else,
lion? Are you an eagle? Are you
help you to discover that
a
for
rat,
yourself.
a mole, right? And the thing is, that's a first and foremost the only.
Don't ever walk into the jungle unless you know who you are. Like, don't ever do it. Like, I mean, you just cannot do that. Like, I mean, like, I don't care how well you know the jungle. If you don't know yourself, like before you walk into that jungle,
but that's the beauty of it, because these guys here, right? You talk about in general in the war, in terms of the war, right? These guys lives in the jungle. They have been in jungle and they've been conditioned for it. If I was the American, I was the South Vietnamese, right? Because South Vietnamese, they don't live in the jungle, they live in the city.
Right.
So if that's the case, I wouldn't go into the jungle to fight you. I just would. I just
Right.
bulldoze the whole fucking jungle to lure you out, because you have to fight in your best element. And so that
Right.
translates to today's standard, meaning like what you want to do is you have to be in your best environment. That means that when you choose a career, when you choose a group of people you want to hang out with, you have to choose them carefully. And the sad thing about this is that people probably spend more time studying a vacation spot than they were studying the job they will take, or the place they will live with
That's funny.
the someone. Okay, and to
Right. That's a good
me,
point.
and I'm guilty of this, and I don't know if I can fix it, but I never chose the environment where I live. I just happened to say, hey, there's a job here. I go work here, and then I met my wife, and then we married. We stay here. We didn't go anywhere. We didn't ever think
Right.
about, hey, maybe this place is better because we like this and like that or whatever. We never thought about it, and that's the sad part of it. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers can relate, just because did you ever ask yourself, how much time do you study the city and the job or the company that you want to work for, and more than you did on your vacation? I probably spend like, people spend like a couple of weeks. Sometimes people spend like half a year just to,
Right.
pin different interesting spots and learning what to do, what you want to do there. People even learn a fucking language just to go to visit a place.
Right.
But for when you take a job and you sit there for like 50 years, the reason why you took that job because they offered it to you. Not because
Right. Yeah.
right? So don't you think that's the saddest part?
I
And so,
think that's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point. I mean, that's actually one of the things I struggled with most of my life. Uh, before like Amelia, I would say, is I used to always call myself like just dumb lucky, in general. Like I didn't pick where I went to school. Like I just was like, Purdue's a good school. My family went there. I applied. I got in. That's the only school that I applied to. No joke. Like that's the only school that I applied to, and it's a good school. But I was like, oh, I'll go be a management major. I thought I maybe wanted to be a lawyer. I don't know. I'll just study business until I, get out of school, because I thought poli sci was stupid. And then what do I want to do at school? I don't know. Somebody offered me a job up in South Bend. It sounds cool, so I'll go up there. So I went up there, like, ended up at Angie's List. I don't know. I got to get back home. Like, I mean, I never, ever chose any of these things. I always made the most of it wherever I went. Like, and I made it successful, and I enjoyed it. And don't get me wrong. Like, I enjoyed those processes. But to your point, like I never, ever,
but I'm
ever,
just saying,
like, like even
what
my
if?
fraternity, I didn't even pledge a fraternity. I pledged one fraternity, the one that I joined. Like I just was like, I was like,
I say,
hey,
you didn't have a list of fraternity. These are the
yeah,
pros and these are the cons, and
yeah,
nothing like that. You say, somebody's in there. Let me
I'll just do
try.
that
Let
one.
me
Yeah,
actually see. And that's
right.
that's the thing. It's like, so the thing is, you did that, and it was pretty good, right?
It
So
was pretty good.
my question to you is, what if you had figured out what you really wanted?
Oh yeah, no, I mean it would have been
What
totally
would you think
different. Yeah,
happens to your life if you knew exactly what it is you wanted?
yeah. I mean, well here, this is the
Because
one
thing
thing I
is,
would
to
tell.
me, you're gonna be a different person today.
100%. I mean, like the one thing I would not challenge you on, I would enhance as to what you were saying before, is I don't think when you know yourself and you walk into the right jungle that you want to play in, like you just find the other people find you, the right environment finds you, right? Like when you know that you're playing in the right jungle, I guess it just finds you. Like I mean, it
I
doesn't,
mean, it's called the attraction, because
right,
you're gonna attract to the people who need you. If
right,
you put yourself out as this person, right? Let's say you are the best like deep sea diver, right? And somebody found a fucking treasure, right? They're gonna seek you out. They say, hey, he's the best at
right.
seeking, like go down to the bottom of the ocean. They're gonna seek you out. It's called attraction. You
Or you just
basically
naturally come
declare
across each other.
yourself. You declare yourself and say, hey, this is who I am. Because the thing is in like I can tell you this as well, in business that I've run, like I can't sell shit. Like can't
That's
sell.
not true. That is not
I
true.
can't sell, okay? So all the clients.
That's what you're telling yourself. That is not true.
No, but let me kind of give you what I'm trying to get at. Is most of the client that comes to me was not because I sold them anything. It's because they knew somebody who saw the work that I did,
right?
And they say, well, and they comes to me and ask me, hey, are you interested and are you available to do this and that? That's all. I mean, most of the job came from that. I have never ever have gotten a job by going out and soliciting anyone. So I guess 100% of my client in my past business was 100% referral. Somebody referred, and most of the time they would beg to work with me. Say, hey, I really need your help. And a lot of time I took the job because I felt it's kind of bad, because the thing is, most of the job becomes like this, there's this bug, I can't fix it, no one can fix it. I need you to look at it. I looked at it and I go, this is the problem. Okay, can you fix it? So it goes from like, hey, look at it, into, hey, can you fix it? It's going to take you a week. Hey, another month, and then, hey, I asked some other stuff, and it turns into 5 years.
Right.
So that's the thing. Is so most of the time is I took a job just because they say, well, I'm desperate. I don't have anyone, because, like I said, most of the job I took is called remedial, because I'm fix something that they desperate need. Like, let's say an app, right? An app goes on a store and it crashes, and you have 100,000 users. They can't use the app, so people can't do any business because the app is broken, right? And so what happens if you have that app crashing, for 6 months, right? For 6 months you make no money, so they're pretty desperate. So if they comes to me with that, right? So the thing is, well, it doesn't hurt if I look at it, right?
Right.
So I did. It's not like, hey, I'm gonna take a job with this, but no, I say, I looked at it and I said, well, I think this is a problem. Now fix this piece and it'll work. And I said, well, why don't you fix it? Okay, fine, I'll fix it. Here you go. And then they say, well, I have other stuff. Can you add this? Can you add that? And then eventually keep turning into more and more work until the point where you have to say, well, I'm out of bandwidth. I can't take any more work.
Right.
But that's the thing is, so that's why I'm saying, when you declare yourself as something great, like that means that if you're a beaver, right, and somebody needs you to do something in the water, they can say, hey, go ask Mr. Beaver. But if you are a beaver and pretend to be an eagle, who's going to ask you to do anything in the water?
No one. I mean,
because no one.
The professor of this jungle is not going to go to Desert Storm.
Exactly.
He's not going to. But there's certainly a professor of the desert somewhere, I'm sure. And there's a
professor of the jungle, professor of the desert, professor of whatever environment that
the mountains in Afghanistan. Hiding. Like hell, that war in Afghanistan. Like they. I mean, I don't even know how many Taliban fighters there were, but that's no. It's not.
The thing is, if you want to fight the Vietnamese, right? Take him to the snow.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Shit. Yeah. They can't do shit.
Drop snow on top of them.
Yeah, just make it cold. They can't do shit. You can put it like 100 degrees, whatever. They say, hey, no sweat. I mean, to me,
is that why you live in Houston? Because it's humid and hot. I mean, is that just feel natural to you?
I mean, Houston is nothing compared to Vietnam.
Houston's
Vietnam
awful.
is 100%
For me,
humid.
It's disgusting.
And the thing is, you have to understand is what's weird is, in Houston, most of my American friends, right? They walk out of the building and they completely sweat, say, and I'm completely dry. I say, what the hell is you guys? How do you get sweat? You didn't do anything. But that's the way that's how their body reacts to it. My body is conditioned for that, right? I don't even break a sweat.
Right.
Seriously, I don't even break a sweat in humidity, because it was much less than in Vietnam. Because in Vietnam it rains every 2 hours.
Right. No, I believe you. My sister lived over in Thailand for like 3 years, and I remember she was over there and she was like, oh man, the weather over here is like they have two seasons. It's like hot or hotter, it's like it's just it's like fucking hot, like, and humid, rains all the time, whatever. But yeah, no, for me, like, Houston's awful. Ironically, like where some of my heritage is from are very dry, places. Like, I mean, so I mean, I think that comes with you, you know. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I
your
love
body is conditioned for that, and
climates, you
so
know.
it adjusts to it. Just like I say, a beaver has the waterproof pelt, right?
Right.
They can swim in the water. They can stand in water for hours without having pruny fingers or whatever. Imagine you throw a lion into into the water.
Yeah,
It
would
can't
not be
stand it for even for 10 minutes. Like,
right. Yeah,
right?
no, you're right.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's the thing is the lion is weak in the water, right? You throw the lion in the water, you know, the fish were gonna pick up piranha, for example, we're gonna pick up the lion like nothing, like dinner, and
Right.
lion is helpless against that. So
Yep.
you're looking for the environment where it is your place to thrive. Just like I told you about, you know, a fish out of water or a monkey climbing a tree. You're asking a fish to climb a tree. You can ask a monkey to swim in the ocean or the river or whatever. That's not his natural environment. He cannot thrive in it. So that first and foremost is understand and figure out who you are. And second, what is the environment that's most suited for you? If you
Right.
do that, that's essentially saying becoming a professional of the jungle, right? Because I mean, the thing is he is already adjusted to the jungle, but then he also
Studies it.
study
Yeah. Right.
even more further
Right.
to become even more aligned with the things in the jungle. So that's why
Right.
they're able to play guerrilla warfare with the American troops. And you know, most of the time you just, you know, can't do much, right? You can't completely make them surrender. You can't make
Right.
them surrender because, you know, still people still fighting back, and if you
Right.
can't find them, if you can't find them, how are you going to shoot them?
Great question. I mean, it's really, it is really interesting. I think this is a really good lesson in general. And I know this has nothing to do with Nike, the story of Nike, but Phil Knight was a study and work.
Oh no, but Nike does that. They
Yeah.
study in their environment, and
Yeah.
even in today, they are very well versed in
Oh, yeah.
what they want to do. Right? They understand what they want to do, what kind of image they want to portray, and they do that very well. And you know, even if you look at the stocks right now, it's doing well in a downturn economy right now.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about like Nike, right? Nike shoes is not cheap, so these are like
No.
luxury items. And even in the bear market, like, you know, in 2001 and 2002, it is upticking and the stock is uptrending. I
Right.
mean, so they understand their environment very well. They understand who
Oh,
they
yeah.
are, right? And they understand their environment very well. So they go, because they're not going to go down. When you think about Nike, what do you think about?
Well,
You think about cheap
basketball,
knockoff in
swoosh, quality shoes, like, you know, I love
it's
their dry fit
when
clothes, you
yeah,
know,
you're talking
you
about
know,
quality, you're talking about
right. Yeah.
performance. That's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
that's the image that comes to your head. You're talking, but when you say Nike, when you imagine some athlete is really, you know, top of his or her game, and he's doing, you know, basketball, football, track and field, whatever it is, it's the elite.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the image of elite, image of top performance.
Yeah.
You don't associate Nike with, like, hey, knockoff Chinese sweatshop or anything like
Right.
that. You
Right.
only do that when you buy things like, hey, you know, some knockoff stuff from Alibaba, from
Right.
from AliExpress or whatever. I mean, you don't think about it. They just say, hey, you know, Nike is performance, and
Yeah.
Nike
And
is an image.
they're innovative. They're very innovative
It,
too. I mean, yeah. They
it,
changed running shoes forever. I
but that's the thing. That's the image, though.
Right.
You're talking about an image
And basketball shoes.
of breaking records, right?
Right.
Breaking records in track and field, breaking records in basketball, in all these, breaking records in innovation.
Hmm.
That's the same image. It's the same. I mean, for them inside the company is, you know, we are supposed to innovate. We're supposed to make athletes even better. So that
Right.
means that the same core values applies inside the company,
I wonder what
understanding who you are and becoming better with what you're doing. So
actually
they
I
are
wonder what
they are
Nike's.
doing the company, you know, a service by providing that as a core value, as a culture.
Oh, there you go. Inspiration, innovation. Every athlete in the world, authentic, connected, distinctive.
Yeah, I mean, it has to come with innovation, because
Right.
I mean, when you're talking about the image of Nike, right? You're talking about helping athlete do more, be
Right.
better, right? Breaking record. So that image comes from within the company. That means that they are going to have to innovate. So the company has to run better, faster, and more quality. So man, that's one quality, right? That it basically transcends wherever you are, whether you're a company, whether you're an athlete, whether you're some, whatever profession that you're in that involves Nike.
Right. Agreed. Well, I think that's a good place to stop for the night. Just knowing how
knowing sleep is important.
Yeah, and my stomach and sleep at this point in time are neither one of them are happy. So but no, I think that's a great place to stop. We added one to your truisms. Become a professor of the jungle, and yeah, I think it's a great lesson in general. So the question we can leave for everyone is, what steps are you taking to become a professor of whatever jungle you inhabit? The proverbial jungle. It doesn't have to be a jungle, but you get it. Whatever that jungle is.
Yeah, you should. Jungle is essentially your environment.
Yeah.
So whatever
Yeah.
environment that you're supposed to be in, like I say, if you have identified yourself as a beaver, right? Don't go to the tundra. Don't go to the desert. And so don't even tempt it. Hey, I have this great offer in the whatever, like no land,
I got
no
this
man's
amazing
land
offer,
or whatever.
Yeah, man. And you're talking to your buddy in the Great Lakes region, and he's like, "What are you talking about? Like, I don't want to go to Antarctica. No, they're gonna pay me a shitload, like a shitload, man. I'm gonna be able to build dams. I'm gonna make so much money I can come back here. I can build 20
And
dams.
you're the only one. You have like first pick of everything because no one's there, right? You're the first one. You go there and then you go. I mean, you basically gonna croak.
Yeah, exactly. This
because that's not your environment. You're just frozen to death.
And if you do survive, then you'll be, into the thin air book or something like that, where the other beavers are back there talking about you, going, "What the hell is he doing? Why is he even up there? Like, why is he doing this to himself? Like, we don't need to know where." Anyway, I'm joking. That was a synopsis of our reflection from Into Thin Air about the Everest disaster of 1996. So awesome. All right, well that's a good place to stop for the night. Thanks always. That was fun, and it's always good to do this no matter how I'm feeling. So appreciate you always being there, and yeah, we'll see you all tomorrow.
Likewise, man. Good night.
Yep.